Sony, I told you to stop calling me already. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Sigma 24-70 2.8 DG art lens for the Sony E-Mount cameras. Now, Sigma already says that this lens is back ordered because it's super popular because so many people want it. Now, I'm more apt to believe them over Nikon telling me that they're sold out of knocked lenses and there's so many people that want them that they can't keep up with demand. This lens isn't even out yet at the time of recording this, yet the pre-orders are massive, and we're gonna find out why during this review. So how did I test out this lens? I took it into multiple real-world situations to get sample RAW files that of course you can download and pixel peep to your heart's content. I photographed Michael Rappaport at Helium Comedy Club in Philly doing one of his comedy sets. I had some backstage and onstage access. I also photographed Ed Bassmaster at the Fillmore in Philadelphia doing one of his comedy shows. And I also took it out onto the campaign trail when I was out in LA photographing Bernie and AOC. So we're gonna go through all of those different images in just a minute, but let's put this lens up head to head against the Sony G-Master. I'm gonna take the lens hood off for now. As you can see, the Sigma 1 is actually slightly smaller than the Sony. Now, the Sony is just under 4 years old. It's been out for quite a while, and when we get to the price point, you may gasp and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that. In terms of weight, the Sigma weighs in at 1.84 pounds, whereas the Sony weighs in at 1.95 pounds. Not much of a difference when it comes to the weight, but how is the quality? Let's talk about the feel of the Sigma. The Sigma feels really good in the hands. Sigma has done a fantastic job with their art lenses. Now, this is a native lens for the Sony E-Mount camera. It's not adapted, it is native because Sony has opened up their mount to allow companies like Sigma and Tamron to have all of the technology that they don't have to reverse engineer to then have it work seamlessly on whatever camera it is from Sony that you put it on. Looking around the outside of the lens, this is your zoom ring. It zooms pretty well. It's not too tight. It's not too loose. On the side here, you have a lock, which we're locked right now. You turn it upside down, you don't get any creep. Right here, you have the AEL button. So this function button could also activate lock-on tracking. It could do IAF. Personally, I don't use these buttons ever. I just find no need for me to use it when I can put my finger right on to the shutter button or a back button to activate whatever it is that I need to activate it. But I know some people like to lock on track or lock the focus in right from the lens. You also have AF to manual. You have the A here to signify that this is an art lens. You have an 82mm, if I am not mistaken. Light, Aziz, light. Yep, 82mm filter thread. So whatever filter that you get, if you do use a filter, you're gonna wanna get an 82mm. Personally, I do not use filters on any of my lenses. I do not use UV filters. Now, I will use an ND or a circular polarizer, especially if we're doing video or if I need to cut back on the amount of light coming in. That is a different situation, but never will you see me using a UV filter to protect my lenses because I do not want to put a piece of glass in front of good glass and possibly degrade that glass. The only time I could ever see doing that is if you're in an extreme environment and you're shooting something like paintball and you take a direct hit to the lens. That would be an okay time to have UV protection filters. Does this lens have image stabilization? The answer is, Steven?
No.
No, it doesn't have image stabilization because all of the Sonys have image stabilization inside of their bodies. The Canon RF 24-70 2.8 does have image stabilization built in. That's because none of their bodies actually have IBIS built into them at this time. For those of you who care about how many blades are in this lens, there are 11 aperture blades in this one, and in the Sony version, there's only 9. In terms of close focus with the Sigma, you can get within 7 inches for close focusing, and with the Sony, it's 9 inches, and I've been told that 2 inches is a big deal. It makes a big difference. I do want to show you something with the lens hood. Now, this is the lens hood that comes with the Sigma. It kind of has this rubbery material around the outside with a button right here. And I have found, after just using this for a couple of weeks and on a bunch of different shoots, and obviously traveling from Philly all the way to LA, that you start to get some discoloration around this rubber because it gets rubbed against. Rubber gets rubbed against, and it starts to get discolored or looks like it's scuffed a little bit. With the Sony, I've had that one for like 3.5 years now, and I don't have any issues with that lens hood. That is not a deal breaker. That's just me pointing out that this rubber just tends to show a little bit more wear and tear after using it just for a short amount of time. But now it's time to get to the sample images. Don't forget, you can download those over on the website. The link is currently up on the screen. Play with those files. See if you like them or don't like them. But what I will tell you is that they were taken with the Sony A7R4, so it's the largest megapixel camera that they have out at the current time using this Sigma lens. So starting right here, we have Michael Rappaport backstage. Check this out. This is 5,000 ISO. Not exactly where you want to push this camera to, but it did it. It was super dim, super bad light backstage at Helium Comedy Club in Philly. It's still sharp right on his eye because IAF worked perfectly. The autofocus capabilities of the Sony A7R4 are fantastic. The same thing with the A9 II. And it just keeps up no matter what I was doing with it. It locks on because that's one of the concerns that people have. Will the native lens focus better, or will the third-party Sigma lens focus not as well? And honestly, in my shooting, I didn't feel like I was missing things because the lens wasn't keeping up. I rarely miss with these cameras because the focusing points go to right where they need to be, and I'm able to shoot. And no matter what lenses I'm using from the Sony or the Sigmas, they all seem to keep up extremely well. Let's dive back into the image. Yeah, you see noise, yeah, you see grain, but it's nice and focused when you zoom in. 24mm is one of those all-around lenses. You use it for when you want to get environmental portraits, you can do it with landscapes, you have a little bit of zoom range. It's not exactly the greatest portrait lens in the world, but a 24-70 is a really good catch-all. Let me cut in here real quick and let you know that the image that you see on the screen right now was taken with this lens and edited using FroPack 2. If you're looking to speed up your RAW workflow or give yourself a great starting point, we created 15 all-new custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at FroKnowsPhoto.com/FroPack2. Over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters, and if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale for 40% off. Or if you'd like to pick up the FroPack bundle, which includes FroPack 1 and FroPack 2, you can save even more. Now, let's get back to the video. Now, the reason I'm showing you this shot of Michael Rappaport while he's on stage is because I tried to do some 24-70s from the distance, from the back of the room. The problem is, they just look like cell phone snapshots because there's not much you can do from that distance with 24 or 70. It just looks like I'm a general person just at the show taking a picture, and so this is why I got much wider and much closer. Is this one at 24mm? Yeah, this is 24mm right behind the two people in the front row. So I snuck in behind them, I used them, they're the out of focus, the dark areas right here to draw us into Michael Rappaport. As we zoom in, it's nice and sharp, and honestly, black and white worked much better here, not because of high ISO, because this is at 800 ISO. It's because of how bad the LED lights were at this venue. They are just a constant blast wash of like purpley, bluish LED lights, and that is very difficult to shoot under, and that's why black and white just tends to look better. Next up, we have Ed Bassmaster, who is doing a comedy show with a bunch of his different characters over at the Fillmore in Philly, which is honestly only a couple of blocks from my house. Now, this gave me the opportunity to use the 24-70 quite often from the pit or on stage as well. So as you can see in this first photo, I'm at 24mm, we're at 4,000 ISO. I had IAF on, Ed was moving around quite a bit, and the focus found the eye perfectly. Nice and sharp, great color, nice tones, really happy with the results that I got out of this. But I'm really curious what Chip Diamond thinks about a 24-70.
24-70? I don't think so.
Continuing on, I jumped on stage because Ed said, go wherever you need to go to get the shots, because honestly, he just gets it, and that's the best way to shoot, is when he's like, go do your thing. So I wanted to find the exact center of the stage. This is the first skit that Ed was doing, and this is his character called Always Testy. I can't. Ed does it better. Sorry, Always Testy does it better. So anyway, lined him up right in the middle. This is great because you can see, are you getting lens flare? Are you having issues up by the lights? Try to get everything lined up perfectly. We did notice at the Fillmore when they first opened it that the stage and the chandeliers are not lined up perfectly, so you cannot get that perfect shot because somebody failed at doing the job correctly. It was probably the person over at Nikon who came up with that grip. They probably screwed up at this venue also. But anyway, I like the shot. Download this one because you can see the edges. You can see what 24mm gives you when you get all the different details of the people. And Steven's back there somewhere out of focus because he was at the show as well. Continuing on, this was as Ed was wrapping up the show. He stepped back onto the stage, put his hand up in the air, you know, did this as Chip Diamond, and it's just, yeah. The focus acquired great. The colors look fine. The tones look fine. It actually is a lot of mixed lighting at this point because we got the blue light coming in. We've got the room lights that are a little more yellow, but I'm very happy with the results I was getting. The autofocus was keeping up well. It didn't hold me back. I didn't feel like I was missing shots like I said earlier. It just seemed to work extremely well. Now, I don't have any side-by-side comparisons of the 24-70 Sigma versus the 24-70 Sony, but like I've said, I use them in the real world. So when you're doing them, using them on actual shoots, it's more difficult to try and do tests. But I think that real world is more important than trying to sit there and futz between two different lenses and try to get the same shot, because you're not going to be able to replicate the same exact thing 2 times in a row unless you're sitting in a studio shooting a trash can, which honestly, if that's what you do as a review, you should maybe think about doing something else. Get this stuff, take it into the real world, and then share those results. Next up, I flew out to LA to join Bernie Sanders and AOC at one of their campaign rallies to capture photos. I had all access to do whatever I needed to do, and I figured let's take the 24-70 with me from Sigma, because there is no other better way to test a lens than to throw it into a harsh situation that I have no idea what's going to happen, so I want to see how it's going to react in that particular situation. And the funny thing is that my camera bag consisted of a lot of Sigma glass. 14-24 2.8, 24-70 2.8, 35 1.2, and then on the Sony side, I had the 135 1.8. A couple of years ago, with all my Nikon stuff, I would have never had Sigma lenses in my bag. I would have always stuck with the native Nikon glass. But at this point, the native Sigma glass on Sony cameras is doing just as good for the most part at a much less price than the Sony lenses. Of course, I'll still take the Sony 135 G Master over the Sigma version because I think that is one of the best lenses I've ever used on any camera. But let's look at this first photo. So this is behind the scenes with AOC. This may not be the greatest shot in the world, but this is where I was testing out. What could we do? This one is done at 42 millimeters, and it just shows you different colors, different tones, different textures. You have the red dress, you've got the blue carpet, you've got the sofa in the background. So you can take a look at this raw file. It's 61 megapixels, and you can pixel peep and zoom in all you want. But the IAF in this situation was fantastic. Let me cut in here real quick and let you know that this video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you're looking to build your very own photo portfolio, use what I use for JaredPolin.com, which is Squarespace. It's simple, easy, affordable, and you don't need to know any coding. To get a 14-day free trial, head on over to squarespace.com/FroKnowsPhoto, and if you decide that it's for you, use the code FroKnowsPhoto at checkout to get 10% off your first order. I was at 400 ISO because the studio light. Look how beautiful this LED light was that we used in the room. Now this is a walk behind her. This is at 24 millimeters, literally a behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. And if we zoom in on the LED light right here, you can try to find some issues if you would like. I don't try to look that hard to look for issues, but if you find them, let me know down below, because honestly, it looks really good. Now, moving on to the next shot, I wanted to zoom into 70 millimeters. It's not the greatest picture in the world, but I wanted to give you a wider shot at 24, and I wanted to give you a zoomed out all the way at 70 millimeters at 2.8, just so that you can zoom in and see a little bit of the separation between the background. Because look, the sofa's going slightly out of focus, and the wall is going slightly out of focus as well. Now we move outside to give you some 100 ISO images, and this is Danny DeVito backstage where we were waiting for Bernie to go and do the campaign rally and obviously AOC to do the rally. So this is just cool as we zoom in and we see how IAF found Danny DeVito. Even though he's only this tall, it still found him, and it found his eye perfectly even through the glasses. I was at 1/1250th of a second at 2.8, 100 ISO. The colors and tones and the clarity of everything that I got out of the Sigma was fantastic. And the last two images, I was able to get up on a ladder that was set up in the back so that I can show you the mass of people that were there. This is 24 millimeters at f4. So I wanted to go away from 2.8, so I gave myself a little bit more depth at f4, shooting at 24 millimeters to give you this ultra wide shot. The tones, the colors, the focus. I mean, the focus isn't that hard for this. You just find the subject and you focus on them and you take the picture. And then finally, you have it 70 millimeters from the same exact location. You can see what 24 looks like, you can see what 70 looks like, and bam, you get both of those shots. So 24-70 is one of those staple lenses that you will find in your bag. The question is, what does it smell like? And will it pass the wind tunnel test? It's always sunny in Philadelphia. What a smell! Ooh, it's always sunny. Now let's try to blow it and see if it wins the sniff test. Well, that would be called the wind tunnel test, Jared. Whoa! Did you guys see that? It passes with flying colors the wind tunnel test. So what does it cost? The Sigma costs, get this, $1,099. What does the Sony cost? $2,198. It's twice as much to get the Sony. It is very difficult for me to stand here and tell you to buy the Sony, even if you're a full-time professional photographer. What is that? Oh, the phone's ringing. Hello? Oh, Sony headquarters? All right, fine. All right, that was Sony. They're telling me that I must tell you that the Sony is better if I want to collect a massive paycheck. But you guys won't tell them that I'm telling you to buy the Sigma, right? At this point, buy the Sigma. It's half the price and it works perfectly fine. Focus, tone, quality, color, feel. It is a fantastic lens. I almost want to just, we'll place this down gently next to me because I don't want to throw it because it's still a great lens. But for half the price, this is the reason that this lens is sold out before it even comes out and is going to be back ordered, is because for $1,099, if you have an A7 III, an A7R III, an A7R4, the future A7 IV, and even, where is it? The A9 II is on this side, Steven told me. The A9 II, this lens is going to be perfect in your bag. So that is all I have to say about that. I can't believe that I'm telling you that I have a bag full of Sigma glass in this day and age. It's just that much better. The art glass, for the value and for the price and what you're getting out of it, fantastic. So that's my recommendation, that if you've been waiting for a 24-70 2.8 for Sony, buy the Sigma. So there you have it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Don't forget to download the sample raw files, and that is where I'm gonna leave it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.